We have seen that, to continue existing, it is necessary to know oneself. It is very crucial to know that we are biological mechanisms, programmed to reproduce, and that this prevents the individual from knowing himself, from being himself. But we can override this programming if we understand it. We can reset ourselves. And in this way, free from the itch to reproduce, we can concentrate completely on the task of being ourselves. And in the long run, we will acquire the most valuable attribute of being, which is to become like children. That is, the most important goal is to be completely free from the addiction to the hedonistic button. By ceasing to be a puppet of the genius of the species, the individual will be able to become what he loves. He will be a free and honest being, master of himself, who knows himself without deception or fantasies, and for this reason, he will be more fulfilled. He will surely love truth and beauty, and will inevitably be transformed. And its vibration will have an unmistakable signature. It will no longer be a drone of the collective. Let us emphasize this. Seeing and feeling our reality without the turbidity of a sexual culture saturated with porn, hedonism, and various addictions is what will allow the being to know itself. The genius of the species will no longer be able to distract us. Now the individual has more possibilities of realizing the self. There are still some aspects to consider regarding our knowledge and our environment. There is still hope. There is hope in the restoration of our being, in finding a home for the future life, since the current deterioration is worrying. The events of the world have revealed several aspects that concern us. We need to understand more about our ecosystem, which can help us make useful extrapolations and informed conjectures. First, we must recognize that we are systems, and a system is understood as a set of interconnected elements that interact with each other to form a whole and that can accomplish certain objectives. According to this, a system can be a cell made up of interrelated elements, such as the nucleus, made up of chromosomes, mitochondria, lysosomes, ribosomes, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, and vesicles. In plant cells, we can find chloroplasts and many other organelles. But a set of systems can form another system. Thus, sets of cells form a tissue, and sets of tissues form an organ. Organs form systems, such as the circulatory, digestive, urinary, reproductive, and nervous systems, etc. These groups of organisms make up the body of living beings, and these individuals of the same species form populations that, in turn, constitute an ecological community. All of these make up our planet's biosphere, and the group of planets, including their sun, form a solar system, and so on. There is no doubt that we are a system ultimately made up of atoms. We know that atoms and molecules, and every system, vibrate. Each molecule has its own rhythm and direction of vibration. Molecules have different vibration frequencies, and each of these movements is called a vibration mode. The brain also displays a set of frequencies. Brain waves can be measured in hertz and are observable through an electroencephalogram. There are various types of brain waves. Delta waves occur during sleep. Theta waves predominate when the senses process internal information and we are disconnected from the outside world. Alpha waves are recorded when the central nervous system is at rest, relaxed but awake and alert. Beta waves appear during wakefulness and also during states of attention. Gamma waves, which are the fastest, etc. The pattern of brain waves is different for each person, and so is their base frequency. Let's say everyone has a signature. All particles have specific frequencies. Brownian motion is the result of the vibration and oscillations of microscopic particles. Microscopic particles vibrate. We can observe this Brownian motion and see, with the help of a microscope, how the smallest particles, such as pollen grains, vibrate continuously. And we already mentioned that this vibration is an intrinsic property of every system. All systems, such as an atom, a glass, a bridge spanning a river, and people, have a natural frequency. Every object or system vibrates when exposed to a specific frequency of wave specific to that object. This is seen in resonance, which is a phenomenon that occurs when an object vibrates at the same frequency as its natural frequency. A very famous example of resonance is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, which collapsed because it resonated with the vibration of the wind. The wind, over the river, blew at a certain frequency. The natural frequency of the bridge was tuned to that of the wind. As a result of this resonance, the Tacoma Bridge collapsed. Every system resonates by responding at its natural frequency. This is its resonant frequency. Let's illustrate this fact with a tool called a tuning fork. A tuning fork is a metal instrument that vibrates at a specific frequency when struck and shows us how a system has a given frequency. If you vibrate a 440 Hz tuning fork, it will only vibrate another tuning fork with the same natural frequency, which is 440 Hz. That is, the receiving tuning fork has the same frequency. Now we know that people have a natural frequency. But these periodic oscillations are not the same in all people. But the natural frequency of the drones of the Onan collective is very similar. And that frequency is very different from that of the asexual group or the natural celibates, who possess the best expressed attributes of childhood. Each person becomes what they love, and individuals, at the end of life, transform into what they come to know, and vibrate accordingly. Each and every element of the collective has a vibration signature, a natural frequency, and it is specific. As specific as a tuning fork can be. Even when they leave the world, at the end of old age, they acquire that signature. And like all frequencies, they must resonate with others. Let's suppose there is a distant, unknown place. A place without suffering, conflicts, or worries, where peace, serenity, and absolute happiness reign. It could be described as a majestic place, full of light, dazzling landscapes. It would undoubtedly be called the good place. A topos or place that undeniably possesses its own natural frequency. But let's say that the main attribute of that topos or place is that it is suitable and beneficial, what we would call good in general. So it remains to call it eutopo, from EU, meaning good, and topos, meaning place, in Greek. Waves of millions of frequencies travel through space and can be picked up by the antennas of certain devices. The eutopo also has its antenna, as a good radio or television receiver would. Unlike a television, it would not receive multiple channels, but only one. As is the case with tuning forks, which have a natural frequency. A tuning fork with a natural frequency of 440 Hz will begin to vibrate when it picks up the signal from another 440 Hz tuning fork. But it will never resonate with a tuning fork of a different frequency. This utopus, as a receiver, would function like a tuning fork that picks up a signal, just as a television would, which only has one channel. This television would not tune to frequencies other than its natural frequency, it would only receive static. But it would tune to the identical signal at its natural frequency, just as tuning forks would. Just as a television would tune to the appropriate frequency defined by its variable capacitor. If a good place exists, it would tune to similar or compatible frequencies. That is, signals from beings who have controlled their desires, with ataraxia, without conflict, peace-loving, serene, and honest. These beings could be described as childlike in their chastity and integrity. This utopia could not accept different frequency signatures, it would ignore them. Those individuals who met and improved themselves eventually became what they loved. And their most evident characteristics of chastity and purity would be revealed in their natural frequency. They would only be tuned in by the eutopo. But if the individual loves corruption and deceit, then they become corrupt. And as a result, their vibrational frequency would have the signature of the corrupt and the liar, and they will be tuned in and attracted to something of the same frequency. A bad place, a kakatopo, something decomposed, ruled by chaos and nothingness. If the individual loves hedonism, they become a being who only loves pleasure, who loves pushing the button, who worships Onan. Their vibrational frequency has the signature of a hedonist, and they will tune in to something similar. Something that smells of death, dark, circular, repetitive. This Kakatopo would be a paradise for drug addicts and degenerates. But if ecosystems teach us anything, it's that a sick system rarely thrives. Only healthy biomes or ecosystems exist in the world. When biomes become sick or polluted, they simply become extinct. They disappear. This tells us that the tuning of a Kakatopo is emptiness, nothingness. There, the self would disappear. Therefore, it has been asserted in many traditions that the reward for the wicked is something horrible. And what is more horrible than absolute death? Nothingness. Disappearance. Because, they say, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a millionaire to enter the good place. And that only those who are like children will reach the good kingdom. But if the individual loves honesty and sincerity, they become a being without blemish, and their vibration frequency bears the signature of the fullness of being, and they will tune into something with an equal frequency, the good place. A place without deceit, clean, full. To avoid saying paradise, or any designation loaded with meanings that might upset the collective, we have given it the name Utopo, which, as we have said, means in Greek, the good place. In conclusion, the few who will be saved will be attuned to the good place. And these honest individuals, with attributes similar to asexuals, to natural celibates, who are like children, will be attuned to the good place. How do you attune to the Utopus?